From being huddled in the corner of my office to the World Championships in France and making $300,000 in the last year.
Taylor Sanford sunk his life savings into a new brand. He decided to take on a behemoth player that already owned the RoundNet market, and not surprisingly, he experienced days of crushing discouragement. But on the other side, he now makes hundreds of thousands of dollars every year and has momentum that never seemed possible. This is the story of Premier Spike.
Taylor, thanks so much for joining me. Tell me about yourself and what do you sell?
I've been someone who has always loved games, whether that's sports, whether it's board games, backyard games, whatever it is. I like to play, almost 40, but I play like I'm still in my 20s. I fell in love with one game in particular back in 2012, which was Spikeball. And, I played that for 6 years, just kind of casually. And finally, like every other game and sport that I play in a competitive league. And so in 2018, I started running RoundNet tournaments. So RoundNet is the generic name for Spikeball, since Spikeball is a trademarked brand. So I did that. I ran tournaments for a bunch of years and still do. But then a few years ago, I decided that I wasn't really pleased with the equipment that we had on the market and went off and started to be the first legitimate competitor to Spikeball. We created a premium RoundNet equipment brand.
What kind of work were you doing before you started this business?
I worked at a marketing agency for a few years, and then I shifted over into project management. And the project management was really boring. It was in telecom, putting up cell towers, and so wasn't too exciting, but it was fairly slow and easy and allowed me to have enough time to kind of start up these side businesses.
We have Spikeball, which is the premier brand in the industry, and you wanted to take these guys on. Is that correct?
Correct. Yep, exactly. So yeah, I was their biggest ambassador, one of their biggest ambassadors for years, and until I kind of felt underappreciated and undervalued. And again, just after I've run over 200 RoundNet tournaments, and every single one we would break 3 to 10 Spikeball sets. So I got tired of replacing them. I got tired of them being, the twisting and the turning, the bending and breaking that would come with them. And, there was really nobody more experienced than myself.
Taylor, how did you validate the idea with a market then?
Like I say, I really was my biggest customer. I've run more RoundNet tournaments than anybody in the world. And I'd grown the largest competitive RoundNet community right here in Utah. And so really it was through myself, but then also as we prototyped. So in 2022, that was when we started prototyping. And I had plenty of potential customers right here in my backyard in Utah that had been coming out to my tournaments. And so I had my best customers testing these prototypes and giving me that validation, telling me, what works, what doesn't work. And it really was a perfect scenario. These were also, really good friends that I could trust to not just be friends, but also, really give me the feedback that I needed in order to create the product that we ended up with.
So you had kind of a built-in beta test audience already. You were already running these tournaments, and it's just a matter of taking that product out to them and saying, hey, what do you like? What do you don't like? And apparently that worked out for you.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. We kind of re-envisioned the whole design of a RoundNet set. The design hadn't seen really any innovation since 2015. Any other knockoff brands from Spikeball basically just copied their same design. And so we re-envisioned it, had it, so that how the rims connect, how the legs connect was totally unique, and really helped us to, all of that testing really helped us to figure out, okay, how does this work? And we came up with a few really innovative and unique ways to put the whole thing together while maintaining the durability, the strength, and the consistency that we really needed in order to improve from what was already on the market.
How much did it take you to get this thing started?
I had a few rental properties, a few years before. And so, I had some in savings. I did bootstrap it. I had about 90,000 that I personally invested into the startup. and that only ended up covering about half. It was definitely, I underestimated what it cost to create a worldwide brand. And so ended up going into about 100 grand of debt on top of my 90,000 of investment. And finally came out of the positive this past year, which has been great, a huge relief. But yeah, I mean, it's been a grind for the last 3 years, and put all of my life savings into it.
Talk to me about that chaos. What happened that you weren't expecting that cost, twice as much as what you expected?
So when we opened up pre-orders in the beginning of 2023, we ended up having about 40% of them coming out of Europe. This was due to my influence in this niche sport, where I helped people all over the world mimic what I had built here in Utah, again, as kind of the largest RoundNet community at the time. And so I had this inherent trust within the community as an influential figure. And so from that, we had, these pre-orders from all over. And initially I thought, okay, we could just, do, DDP shipping from the US and we'll do that. And really that's just not sustainable. And so I had to figure out how to be able to import into Europe, finding distribution partners in Asia, a fulfillment partner in Canada. And so a lot of it was just the distribution strategies and logistics that it costs to do that, on top of course, a very expensive plastic mold for the tooling on top of the inventory. So yeah, that was really just the distribution was really the biggest surprise that came from it.
You mentioned something about iterating and how you had to improve what Spikeball was doing before. What kind of changes did you make? Was it just higher quality materials that you were using?
So it's both higher quality materials with ABS plastic that is thicker, stronger. But again, a lot of it is in the design. If anyone's familiar with a standard RoundNet set or Spikeball set, all of the rims go into the legs, and then the legs can fold, which is convenient. To have those legs fold up, it can become nice and flat. But ultimately, that creates a joint in the product. And so when somebody falls on the net, or even just twisting that leg in and out over and over and over, those plastic pieces would break consistently. And so we had to re-envision it so that essentially it acts as a one-piece rim. All the rims go into each other. It's much thicker and stronger. And then the legs actually snap to the bottom. I'm actually really proud of that, the feature that we made that allows the legs to snap in, stay in really strong, but also snap out. One, to put it away, and two, in case you fall on it, the legs are designed to pop out to prevent the rims from breaking, even if you do, obviously it's still plastic, but it is very difficult to break while playing.
So talk to me about the business breakthrough. What happened that it finally started clicking and everything started working? Was it just time in market?
A lot of it was kind of just that slow and steady growth. So we have put very little paid ads into the business. We tried a little bit at the beginning of 2024. We didn't have the brand recognition at the time, and so we essentially just wasted money. It really was through my influence in this niche sport, working with these communities all over the world, and that was one thing that I did underestimate, was the difficulty of going up against a brand that essentially had a monopoly on the market, right? I mean, people know RoundNet as Spikeball. Just like Kleenex is, right? I mean, people call a tissue, they call it a Kleenex, whether it's Kleenex brand or not. And so it wasn't as easy to get people to make that change with the influence that they had. But we had a much superior product, and it just kind of took slowly and slowly. We had more and more of these communities, more of these tournament directors that had the same frustrations that I had. That was the reason I created Premier Spike. And so it just kind of picked up steam, and really in 2025, this past year, things exploded. We did, previous to that, we were doing about 100,000 both in our first 2 years. We did 50,000 in pre-orders in 2023, and then another, and then we did 300,000 this past year in 2025. And so really, it was a great situation.
So what was your best growth channel? Was it Google? Was it Facebook, Instagram? What was it?
Pretty much all of our sales are organic. And so, the biggest channel is more of a grassroots marketing. It's me working directly with these clubs. And we've kind of done a trickle down approach. Rather than, for a lot of other backyard games or RoundNet equipment, they start with an entry level set. Rather, we wanted to go top down. So we focused on the people who really value a premium, durable, quality set, which are competitive players. Now, these competitive players, these are the ones they're filming their games. They're posting highlights. And so then that is trickling down to their friends who play casually. We also work with a lot of PE teachers because, again, they kind of fit within this high use scenario. And same thing with youth camps, where, they've got hundreds, thousands of kids coming through their programs. And one, they experience broken spike ball sets all the time. And so they really value our product more than a typical casual customer does anyway. And then it gets in and we get that free marketing. And so really that's been our approach, is working with the clubs, working with these tournament directors, getting them to adopt it, offering them discounts to incentivize them to do it, that then builds in that free marketing all the way down. So, I mean, really it has been, these direct bulk order sales, and then our website and, some Amazon, but honestly, Amazon, is not anything that we rely on like a lot of other businesses do.
Taylor, how long have you been in business?
We started the business in 2022 and then have been revenue producing since the beginning of 2023.
How much did you make in your first year?
We did 50,000 in pre-orders and then about another 30 or 40 after we received our first shipment.
And last full year was 2025. How much did you make then?
We did 300,000 in total revenue.
Outstanding. And there wasn't a whole lot of ad spend in that, so a lot of that was profit, it sounds like.
Almost zero ad spend in 2025, yep.
What's been the hardest moment of this journey so far?
That was coming out of the winter of 2023 to 2024. It's obviously a seasonal product, a seasonal sport. And I had a lot of startup costs. And, going into, we got our first batch of products in August. And so we didn't have a whole lot of time of prime season to save up, any savings to pay operating expenses through the winter. So coming out of that winter, I was sincerely scared that I didn't know how to make this work. Spent many days, tucked in a corner, honestly crying on the floor. It's a part of startups and entrepreneurship that does not often get talked about. It was a grind. It was a mental grind, and just learning how to appreciate the little wins. That's what gets you through it.
So you've gone through ups, you've gone through downs. How has this journey changed you as a person and maybe as a business owner so far?
It's been a lot of resiliency. I worked full time for 2 years without getting paid. And learning how to do that, again, learning how to appreciate the little things. I'm very much, as most entrepreneurs are, very much focused on a goal, right? I mean, my biggest fear in life is to not be successful. And when I'm faced with that face to face, right up close, life savings gone, not sure how to continue to pay on this debt, it definitely changes you. Again, a lot of emotional breakdowns, a lot of therapy of learning how to deal with those struggles. And honestly, it's a big reason why throughout 2025, I've felt like I'm the best version of myself because I had gone through that. I'd been able to see the light at the end of the tunnel and now experience that. And so that's definitely been life-changing for me.
So you've gone from the highs, you've gone to the lows, you had a great year in 2025. Tell me about what business success has opened up for you at this point in your life.
My biggest thing that I'm excited for, the biggest success as a business, is that we were just selected to be the equipment provider for the 2026 RoundNet World Championships. Yep. So in 2025, there were about over a dozen countries worldwide that use Premier Spike for their seasons and for their national championships, USA included. And, which was the first time that really a lot of these countries had used anything except the Spike Ball brand. And for us to get this World Championships bid as the underdog, as we have much less capital and resources from the name brand, our competitor. And for us to be able to foster that relationship with this tight-knit RoundNet community, have a superior product, just, it allowed us to reach that huge milestone, which just gets me more and more excited for what 2026 growth is going to bring.
Congratulations. That's outstanding.
Taylor, you are a veteran e-commerce store owner now at this point. What advice can you offer to those that are in the midst of it or those who are thinking about starting a store?
Get a partner. I had a co-founder, but he was responsible just for the engineering. His name is Adam Calder, great buddy of mine. And, I had this drawing. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no experience in manufacturing or distribution prior to this. I had marketing and sales experience. And so he helped me bring it to life, but that was pretty much, his job was over. And so I've been running it as a sole owner, a sole employee for 3 years, hiring, contractors, but get a business partner, get some help, somebody who specializes in things that you're not great at, and work together that way.
Thanks so much for bringing the value today, Taylor. If somebody wants to connect with you, how could they do that?
If you want to connect with our brand, premierspike.com, the best place to go. If you want to connect with me personally, I've got, Instagram is at sanford.spike. Thanks to a couple of other successful people in this space, Chris Mead over at CrossNet, been amazing at giving me guidance. And same thing, Scott Brown at Paddle Smash. I'm going to give both of those guys, I'll always give them shout outs because they have given me free consulting. I want to help other people to do the same thing. So please feel free to reach out.
Taylor's story shows that e-commerce growth is rarely clean or comfortable. It's built through risk, self-doubt, hard nights, but with a decision to keep going when the outcome is not guaranteed. Taking on an established brand, surviving the lows, and coming out with significant deposits in the bank did not happen by accident. It happened because Taylor stayed in a solid market with a superior product long enough for the tide to turn, and that made all the difference. In this next episode, we'll see another story in a similar niche, but this time with co-founders. You'll hear how Paddle Smash navigated growth, competition, and scaled in the competitive recreational market. Check out the video right here. All the best.